the way I think of it, and feel free to add how you think of it, but muscle is one of our best investments we can make now to make sure that we age the way we want. So let's talk a little bit about, building muscle, the importance for longevity.
I think it's gotten a bad rap years ago. I used to see this with a lot of, especially a lot of the women that would come in to train with me. And the first thing out of their mouth was, I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to look like you. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I wouldn't want to look like me either if I was trying to get the body type that you're looking to go after. So I think because of that bad rap, people steered away from, working with resistance. They would always move more towards things like yoga, which I love, or Pilates, which I also like. And I think there's a place for these things, but I think building muscle is body armor. And I think we need this body armor as we age.
Collective Insights is a voyage through topics and technologies revolutionizing human well-being. Groundbreaking approaches for a better world and a better life await you. Welcome to Collective Insights.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gregory Kelly. Before we get into this week's episode, I want to talk about one of the most important molecules in your body to help you age well. I'm talking about NAD+. High NAD+ levels help our bodies stay youthful in so many ways, such as creating energy, maintaining healthy DNA, detecting and using nutrients efficiently, and protecting your cellular health. But in our 30s and 40s, our NAD levels start to plummet. That's why our science team made Qualia NAD+. Qualia NAD+ is a clinically tested formula with an uncommonly advanced approach. It can boost NAD+ levels up to 50% by combining 14 key ingredients, including 3 premium NAD+ precursors, working together to support NAD+ production deep into life. To learn more about NAD+ research and to try Qualia NAD+ risk-free for 100 days, go to qualialife.com/NAD15 and use code NAD15 for 15% off Qualia. Today we're thrilled to welcome Don Saladino, a renowned fitness expert and trainer known for his work with celebrities and athletes. With a passion for helping individuals achieve their best selves, Don emphasizes the importance of strength training, especially as we age. In this episode, we'll explore how maintaining muscle mass is crucial for overall health and longevity, as well as the profound benefits of fitness on brain function. Let's dive in. Don, thank you so much for joining us today.
Let's go. What's going on? How are you? It's great to be here.
Yeah. And our audience might be able to, the people that are watching, tell that you just came from a workout. So
overdressed.
Yeah. So
ran up here and was like, do I have time to change? No, we're going ahead. No, my apologies, everyone. But
yeah. And so we're going to just really jump into exercise and fitness, since that's yours, your domain and your area of expertise. And the goal is to have our audience get to know a bit about you and your journey, and then some things that they can do. So maybe we'll start off just sharing a bit about your story.
I'll give you the fast version of it because it started when I was in second grade. I had a really bad hearing problem, ended up having hearing surgery, had a bad stuttering problem. I'm a proud stutterer my whole life. Hopefully it comes out a couple of times in this, but it's something I've learned to embrace and I worked on. But I think at a young age, sport and fitness was something I fell in love with because it allowed me some significance, to feel significant. And I really ran down that road. Grew up working in a catering business background, very kind of blue collar mentality, working weddings at a young age, probably too early to even legally be working. But it was with my family and just wanted to impress my father, my grandfather, my uncle on my work ethic and how hard I would sweep floors, or just doing this whole work ethic piece was something at a young age that really, that I loved and I embraced. So went off to college, played Division I college baseball. Had aspirations of playing beyond that, had some tryouts, didn't work out, but through the whole process was just dreaming about fitness. And I remember having a conversation with my mother and saying, she's like, well, what do you think you're going to do? And I was thinking about everything that included the gym. And she said, well, I'm thinking about like law enforcement. I'm thinking about it. She's like, why don't you become one of these trainers? And I'm like, I'd love to, but they don't make money. And she looked at me and she said, don't worry about the money. Just go after what you love. And I remember thinking that, hearing that and being like, oh, it's okay. I'm going to go for this. That was in 1999. So since then, I opened up several gyms in New York City. I had those for 15 years. Did my first raise at 26 years old. I raised $5 million. Opened my first club in Soho. Studied business in college. Really understood business. Really understood people. And rolled out my club called Drive 495 in 2005. It was the first golf fitness training facility in New York City. My brother was a professional golfer. I was a rotational sport athlete. We really loved golf and knew how to work with golfers. From there, we opened a group training facility called Drive 443, launched and exited from a digital media company called Driven. We did that with a couple of professional athletes, Adrian Peterson, Dwayne Wade, Ernie Els. Learned a lot about engagement, learned a lot about the digital space, how to build apps, how to build content. And then in 2020, when we were forced to close, ironically, my 15-year lease expired May 31st, 2020. Governor Cuomo told us that we had to close. I'll never forget the date, March 16th. It was Monday, March 16th, 8 p.m. We got an email and it said, gyms are closed until further notice. And I remember my wife looking at me saying, you're going to get every call from every publication. You got to build some program. And I said, actually, it's a great idea. So we emptied out our living room. I built a 4-week bodyweight program, and every publication did call me over the next probably 3 to 5 months. I remember the first month I ran probably anywhere from, people don't believe me this day, around 130 live workouts in 30 days. So Shape Magazine, Men's Health, Muscle Fitness, whatever it was, wanted to do Instagram takeovers were the thing. And I was doing Instagram takeovers and running live classes back to back. I think I had COVID in the first week because I literally had a shower between every class because I was sweating so much in the warm up and I felt sick as a dog. But we were able to give away this free program. I think we collected 200,000 emails in the first 4 weeks, way more than that over the next probably 8 to 12 weeks. And that's when Dino Brands was born, which is our digital fitness company. We're in over 80 countries now. We sell programs globally. We sell challenges, which I'm really passionate about because it still allows me to coach people. We host retreats every year. The last 3 years, I rented an island in Mexico and hosted 100 people. And this year, we're in Grenada. We sold out in 8 hours. 100 people are coming in and do a lot of brand consulting. So my whole career has really changed in a direction that back in 1999, if you told me everything I was doing now, it just didn't exist.
Yeah.
But no matter what, I said it the other day, you could park $1 billion in my lap. Coaching is something I don't think I'll ever stop doing.
That's fantastic. What a great story, Adrian. So, and timing, multiple points in that support of your mom.
I deserved it though, because you saw what I went through for 15 years at that club. I mean, it was 15,000 square feet in Soho. My overhead was about $2 million a year just for the one location. And we dealt with every issue from blackouts to floods, to power outages, to losing hot water for 3 months, to a very difficult landlord. It was just on and on and on. So it taught me business. I almost missed 37 consecutive payrolls. I'll never forget 2007 when Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns went under. We were burning about $100,000 a month for 12 months. And we couldn't close the club down because we personally guaranteed the landlord, and we were on the hook for like over $3 million. So it was either close the place and lose a lot of our assets, or we got to find a way to work it out. So I really became known as someone in the industry who's done it from the brick and mortar standpoint and the digital standpoint. But I think I gained that respect because of what I had to go through and the obstacles I had to jump through to be able to make this happen. So, I mean, that's a totally other podcast, but it was, let's just say it was a learning curve.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, one of the things, I wanted to shift gears to was really the context of aging more than anything. And the way I think of it, and feel free to add how you think of it, but muscle is one of our best investments we can make now to make sure that we age the way we want. So let's talk a little bit about, building muscle, the importance for longevity.
I think it's gotten a bad rap years ago. I used to see this with especially a lot of the women that would come in to train with me. And the first thing out of their mouth was, I don't want to get bigger. I don't want to look like you. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like I wouldn't want to look like me either if I was trying to get the body type that you're looking to go after. So I think because of that bad rap, people steered away from, working with resistance. They would always move more towards things like yoga, which I love, or Pilates, which I also like. And I think there's a place for these things, but I think building muscle is body armor. And I think we need this body armor as we age. I don't mean to get depressing, but we're all going to fall. We're all going to take that shot, God forbid, car accident, whatever it might be. And if we don't have that bone density, if we don't have that equity built in our muscle, that's our body armor. And it's not only for athletes. There's a reason why athletes are trying to get bigger, faster, stronger. They want to be able to take that shot. They want to be able to withstand the blows of every day of just stress and develop that level of resiliency. So that's one of the most important areas. Also, fantastic for our metabolism, right? If we develop more muscle, we're going to potentially burn more fat calories at rest. And that's something I like to we refer to as RMR, or resting metabolic rate. So if I was to shut up right now and just sit here, I'm going to burn a certain amount of calories all day without doing all the things that I like to do right now.
And more than me, because you've got a lot more muscle mass, typically, right?
Right, because that also, I have a lot of energy. So I think, calorie restrictions, these are things that sometimes are beneficial to use, but they're used too much. Staying away from resistance training and just doing cardio. I love cardio. Today's an off day of training for me, lifting for me. I started my day off with close to an hour of cardio, steady state today to help with recovery. Tomorrow I'll be off, and Monday I'm off doing it. But, things like cardio, I think very important, and we need to use this for heart health. But I think it's just looked at for, well, I want to burn fat first, so I'm just going to do cardio, and then I'm going to resistance train. I'm like, no, if you want to burn more fat or change your body composition, you should be mixing in both. Oh, I need to be in a caloric restriction. Well, calorie restrictions do work, and they are important for fat loss. But what if you're already in a restriction? And what if you've been in a restriction for 4 or 5 years? And we see this a lot. Someone will come to me and I'll find out that they're eating 1,200 calories a day. And they're like, I need to lose body fat. I need to change my body composition. Well, we're not going to drop our calories anymore. So I'll take a reverse dieting approach to get their metabolism working a little bit more efficiently. I think the best example I like to use is, the human body is very smart. If you get into a car, the car's not smart. You fill up the car with gasoline, you start driving, the check gasoline light will pop on. And if you don't pull off, you're running out of gas. Your car will stop wherever it is. It doesn't care. The human body is way smarter than that. The human body will start looking at a calorie restriction, and it'll start telling itself, wait a second, I don't have enough energy for this trip or this ride I'm going on right now. I need to slow things down. So when you see me moving my hands, that's, a fancy term everyone uses called non-exercise energy thermogenesis. It was a tongue twister there. That's me using my hands, and that's me burning calories here. So with a reduction in calories, I'm not going to have as much need, which is part of us burning fat, and it's part of me showing everyone that I have high levels of energy. So there are so many things that are going to contribute to us building muscle, but I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there that are keeping people from actually being able to put that muscle on, and understanding that just because they're putting muscle on doesn't mean they're going to look like it.
I 100% agree. I think the way we think about shape is how I would language it.
Right.
Is often poor in your car analogy. The way I described it in the past is like, oh, if we were a car, we're not like the Volkswagen in our driveway or whatever car. We're like Herbie the Love Bug, right? That with a will of its own, and I'm going to get what it wants. So one of the other things that I wanted to touch base on, specifically with resistance training, I was that really thin frame, had never been in a gym till going into the Navy, and was pretty overwhelmed by it. Frankly, I think didn't feel like I fit. I would have described it. And it just happened this other officer at the time was more of the gym rat, like working out was his thing. And he's like, yeah, no, Greg, you're coming with me. And over those first couple weeks, I went from feeling like intimidated to go in there to like, oh, I belong here. No, not that I morphed my body into anything remotely like his or yours, but from that couple weeks since, I've always been comfortable feeling, yeah, the gym's my place. So do you have any advice or stories related to that where, maybe for a woman, it's hard to overcome and get in and do some of these things?
Yeah, I think if you're freaked out about going to a gym, then don't go to a gym. Like, just buy a pair of dumbbells. You can go get a pair of power blocks and an adjustable bench, or don't use an adjustable bench. A pair of dumbbells are going to be fantastic. And I think just starting with 20 to 30 minutes a day, 3 days a week is really all you need to get started, develop that confidence. Listen, a gym's great because it's going to give you some variability in exercises. It's going to be a little bit more cost effective than you put a massive gym in your house. People get really freaked out about other people's opinions. And first off, if someone's going to judge you for making an effort to get in there, I think it tells you a little bit about that person. And I wouldn't care so much about what they're thinking about you. But I mean, I know anyone I've ever seen who's getting started in the gym, there's just such a high level of respect. You're almost sitting there admiring them, like, yeah, look at them going after it. Look at them watching, I could see that they're trying to learn from a coach online or a YouTube video or whatever it might be. So I think I have admiration for those people. But I just think start at home, get on a really good dumbbell program, 3 days a week, 20 to 30 minutes. Just start there. But don't focus on the best program out there or the best nutrition program out there. If you can implement one thing into your life every month, I think good things are going to happen. And, I've done that with a lot of people. I think it's why I become successful in this business is, I will almost in a way trick people into doing these things where, month number one, it's like, can you get some more water? Like, yeah, I can get some more water. Like, but I forget about drinking water. So what do? Like, take this Yeti, I'll give him a Yeti or whatever it is. And, drink 2 of those a day and just do that for the next month. And like, great. And the following month, like, you're wearing an Apple Watch, right? They're like, or an Aura. They're like, yeah. I'm like, where are your steps at? Like, that's 7,500 a day. I'm like, okay, can you give me 8,500? And I think an easy way to do that is just walk an extra 5 minutes after dinner or lunch, or next, we start adding that on and we start creeping their steps up to what I think is a suitable, thing for them, depending on their lifestyle. And then, next, we're 3-4 months in and they've made these major non-scale victory changes. It's these major non-scale victory, I call them NSVs, are things that we can implement into our life that in the long run, these are victories, but they may not immediately like show a change on the scale. That's why I love measuring body fat or doing DEXA scans maybe once a year, is because I could show someone, look, you haven't lost weight, but you put on 4 pounds of muscle and lost 4 pounds of fat. Like, now the scale's not going to tell you that. So, but that's an incredible return on your investment of training and exercise. Then blood work, right? They call you into the doctor. Like, wow, look at your triglycerides. Look at your cholesterol. Your body weight has changed a little bit. How are you feeling? Wow, I'm sleeping better. I'm just happier. Like, awesome. Again, non-scale victories. I was able to, since I left the city, I was able to raise my testosterone naturally from 680 to 930. And it's been my claim to fame in the business. That what I've been known for is that I've never used performance enhancing substances. I've been on the cover of Muscle and Fitness 3 times since 2018. I just take a lot of pride in this stuff. And people ask me, well, how did you do it? And I'm like, stress. Like, I went from commuting 3 hours a day into the city to now waking up every morning and have a 60-foot commute into my barn, into my home gym. I've eliminated a lot of stresses from New York City. I've eliminated all those things I was talking about earlier, landlords, etc. Stress. I mean, stress is a huge contributor to the reduction of testosterone. And when you remove stress and you start becoming a happier person and you do the good things in life, like eating right and hydrating and training and getting outside and being around positive people, like, you'll start seeing hormonally things restore a lot faster.
I think stress, I think of it as inherently catabolic in nature, right? It's like, borrow from today, like, let's not worry about tomorrow because we got to deal with the stressful things now. And if we can get rid of that, we shift into a more anabolic state. And so one of the things you had mentioned had to do with calorie restriction is some of the people that you see would maybe inadvertently not be getting enough calories. And we need enough if we're going to build muscle. But the area I wanted to really focus on would be protein.
Sure, yeah.
What my experience has been is people aren't necessarily intentionally restricting protein, but they're not aware of how much they should get or how to make it so that's easy to get. And without that, it's hard to build the muscle. And
there's a lot of contradictions out there, because most of the people I'm around are recommending that gram of protein per pound of body weight. And then you have others out there that say, well, you don't need that to survive. And I'm like, you're right. You don't need that to survive. You can survive on a lot less. We're not talking about survival. We're talking about thriving. And we're talking about putting on muscle. And if you are getting around that gram of protein per pound of body weight, I can't even tell you how much research is out there right now that evidence pushing it in that direction. Does that mean 0.85 grams per pound of body weight is not going to work? Still put muscle on there. Does that mean going up to 1.25 or 1.5 is wrong? It's not wrong. There's no evidence stating that going over on your protein is going to contribute, negatively to your health. But calories are very important in the long run. Calories are your energy, and you really only have 3 macronutrients. I really say there's 4 because I can include fiber in there. I always go protein, carbs, fats, and fiber. Like, protein is your muscle building block. And in my opinion, it's the most important macronutrient. Like, this is our muscle building block. We need this to be able to put on muscle and to be able to, live a long, healthy life, right? Carbs and fats are our energy sources. And these also are going to keep us satiated. And these are going to help us maintain our blood sugar level. Now, fiber is something that I notice a lot of people who have body composition issues or have been struggling to change their body composition. There's so much variability in those areas, right? Those macronutrients, there's a lot of variability. I think a way to remove the variability is tracking. Now, do you have to track? No. Do people intuitively eat and are successful? Yes. But I'm saying when you track, it removes the guesswork. And if you're trying to optimize or you're trying to troubleshoot, tracking for me is imperative. Because if someone's turning around saying like, I eat a lot, I eat great, I eat high protein, I eat a healthy diet, I get fibrous foods. I'm like, great. Like, okay, like, what does that mean? What if you're 1,500 calories below where you need to be? Like, that's going to be a problem. What if one day you're getting 200 grams of protein, another day you're getting 125, and one day you're getting 15 grams of fiber, and one day you're getting 40? Like, you're all over the map. It's very difficult for the body to make change and progress if there's not a level of consistency, which has been what bodybuilders do very positively. And that's one thing that we can learn from them. It's the consistency. I think it's very monotonous on the foods they eat because there's no rotation in their nutrition, and they're not worried about foods that are micronutrient dense, right? They're more worried about just hitting their macros because their body's going to, get leaner or get bigger or whatever that might be. But I like this whole, it's a stupid term, but like functional bodybuilding approach where, you're paying as much attention to micro as macro. And I think if you do that and you remove a lot of the guesswork, you will be shocked on how you can make body composition change. Taking weight off, losing body fat becomes very easy. Putting it on becomes very easy. It's just math, right? If you're burning 3,000 calories a day and you are used to burning that amount and your metabolism is running efficiently, you drop at 250 calories a day, 200 calories a day, you're going to be in a deficit. Like, you should start losing. You want to put on muscle, we may get to maintenance and bump it up a little bit above maintenance. And with the proper resistance training, you could start putting on muscle. So it's just math. So I think people need to understand a little bit more that tracking becomes very important. I think meal frequency, is it 8 meals? Is it 4 meals? Is it 3 meals? Is it 6? It's just math. If you have to get 200 grams, I'm making this up.
Yeah.
Just for math purposes. Let's say you need 200 grams of protein, 200 grams of carbs, and I'm going to make this up, 100 grams of fat. The math on that would be, if you're eating 5 times a day, that would be what? 40, 40, and 20. Right? Like, so 40 times 5 is 200, for your protein and carbs, and 20 times 5 is 100 for your fat. It's just math. If you drop it to 4 meals a day, well, that protein is going to have to come up, and those fats are going to have to come up per meal. If you want to increase to 6 or 7 meals, well, then the meals are going to get a bit smaller. It's just math. So I think it's understanding where your total daily energy expenditure is, how many calories are you burning in a day. And when you figure that number out, it's very, easy to get into a ballpark. You can download apps like Chronometer, or it's pronounced Chronometer, Chronometer. I couldn't spell need earlier, but I can spell that right now. I think at that point, it's just math. And then you give it a few weeks, you see how your energy level is, you see how your body's working. And, in reference to that, those diet changes, and then we could start making adjustments. But a big problem is that we are so focused on restriction because we want to be leaner and thinner, and we think that's healthier, and you're just not giving the car enough gasoline, and then your body in time just is like, I don't have enough energy. I don't want to get off the couch. I don't have enough energy. I don't feel like working out. And then we start losing motivation. And then, I've seen people put on body fat that way. I've seen their body composition go in the reverse direction.
I know I'm going to probably paraphrase this incorrectly, but I think it's an Einstein saying along the lines of, we can't simultaneously prepare for war and peace. And when I think of like building lean mass, we can't simultaneously be catabolic and anabolic, right? Maybe we can shift between them different times, but if we're trying to build muscle, we want to be anabolic as much as possible. You gave a couple of really brilliant, simple steps, actionable steps that you might give for drinking more water, getting more steps.
Sure.
For someone that's struggling to get there with protein, is there like a common, easy step you often need?
Again, jumping to that number. So we use 200 grams as an example. So let's just say you have to get 200 grams in a day, but we start measuring and you're at 85 grams. Like, you're not getting the 200 grams tomorrow. Like, let's face that, right? Like, I'm going to maybe take you over the next 4 weeks, 8 weeks. I don't care how slow it is, but I'm going to start reverse dieting you. Let's say you're at 100 grams of protein and I need to get you to 200. Well, I might just bump it 20 grams for this week. And then next week, we might bump it another 20 grams. It's really not a lot. I mean, 20 grams, 4 meals, that's 5 grams a meal. That's like, an egg has 6 grams. I mean, that's minuscule. But again, it's just math. If you could put this stuff on paper and map out a plan, which is what I do for people. And I don't overwhelm them with it. I just give them the information. Like, all right, this is what I want you to do this week. They're like, that's it? Like, yeah, that's it. Next week, this is what I want you to do. Okay. And then I'm nowhere there. I'm like, how you feeling? Like, energy's good. Sleeping better. Like, how are your clothes fitting you? I'm all right. I think fine. I haven't weighed myself. I think where people get freaked out is as they start adding more carbs initially, their body starts pulling in more water. So I think that I think it's something like for every gram you're pulling in, you're going to of carbohydrates, you're going to draw in about 2 to 3 grams of water, I think is the number. So if you're someone who's been restricting carbohydrates, which by the way has good carbohydrates, has fiber, right? Yeah. We need that. When you start bringing it back into your system, you start pulling all this water into your body like a dry sponge. So for someone trying to lose weight, they jump on a scale and they're like, oh my God, I gained 3 pounds. And we see it with that whole yo-yo dieting. I'm going to go no carbs after the New Year's and I'm going to 2 weeks. I'm going to be great. And I'm just going to eat vegetables and protein and train like crazy. And then they have like one holiday post blowout night and they jump on the scale the next day and they're like, I lost 8 pounds over the last 2 weeks and I just put 5 of it back overnight. Like very normal. Like this is why people lose confidence in it. But it's also why, when I have clients of mine go to Italy now and they eat nothing but pasta and gelato, they come back and they lose weight. And people are like, well, how's that possible? I'm like, well, they're not carbohydrate resistant. Like they're very used to their body processing carbohydrates. When they went away, they walked a lot more. And the meals over there, they're not eating these gigantic portion sizes, and they actually ate less because they were on foot all day and they just had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So yes, they eat foods that would be off the diet regimen, but the portion sizes of that really reduced and their activity level increased and they're having a fun time. Their levels dropping. So, I think there's this, there really is a wrong approach that people are taking to all this. It's much easier than we make it out to be.
Yeah, I agree. Some listeners may know I wrote a book, Shapeshift. That was the whole premise of the book is like, we're doing all these things. We're thinking about the problem in the wrong way. Right. Let's think about it.
Right.
Better.
I love that one.
One of the things you've mentioned a few times was fiber. So at Qualia, we created, it's called Qualia Symbiotic, but it's 1 scoop, 6 grams of fiber, resistant starches.
That's amazing.
Some fermented foods. But the reason we did was because there's just a big gap there for a lot of people, even diligent people. It's hard to get the variety of good fibers that our ancestors.
I highly recommend people taking that. I mean, that's I think in the beginning it becomes very overwhelming, and just having an easy supplement that you can add to your shake or have, first thing in the morning with a meal. I think that to me is magic.
Yeah, I think so much of getting better results in life is making things easy for all of us, because we all have many things demanding our attention, our time, and if we can do simple things to make the most of those.
And when you start seeing a result off of that, that's why I recommend meal replacements.
Yeah.
Well, protein shakes. I mean, I don't recommend us removing meals for shakes, but I think meal replacements, protein shakes, should be added in at times of inconvenience. And I think they're great tools to be able to bump up your protein. And it becomes really easy. If you're, 80 grams of protein short every day, that could be 2 shakes, one between breakfast and lunch and one between lunch and dinner. Like that's really easy. And you can add some fruit to it, which starts adding in more micronutrients. You can add some healthy fats in there if you need, which is going to keep you satiated. Then suddenly dinner's going to roll around and you're not starving and you're not overeating at dinner or going into the pantry or going into the freezer and grabbing that ice cream and then sitting there and not moving and having a bad night's sleep and not utilizing all that fuel, right? It's going to start in time getting stored. That habit can be a negative habit. So yeah, I'm a big believer, and I'm challenging you to try and overeat the good stuff, and you'll cheat less. Like I've never seen, I hate using the word, like I've never seen people get fat, but I have not seen anyone get fat. Unlike being like, oh my God, how'd you get fat? Like, oh, it's from eating nutrient dense foods. Like I eat a high protein diet and I eat, a lot of vegetables, and I eat like things like sweet potato and fruits. And I eat a lot of it. And oh my God, I gain body fat. I'm like, I've never heard that. Like it doesn't happen. Normally people are like, hey, maybe I was a little full in the beginning and maybe gained some water weight in the beginning, but my energy level went up. My skin got better. Like, maybe I'm more regular for someone who wasn't. Maybe my sleep quality has improved. My energy level has gone up. It's just getting that machine to burn more efficiently.
Well, and one of the things I know you mentioned the replacements, but when I first was in the Navy, trying to figure it all out, right? Before that time in my life, someone had always just put food in front of me. First, it was my mom. God bless her. She was a great cook. Then it was like university. And at that point, I was responsible for the first time for feeding Greg. And again, that person that took me to the gyms, it's like, all right, you're going to do these protein shakes. This is how I do them. This is what he just made it easy. And that made a huge difference at that point in time.
People don't want to think. They just want to go. They have enough stress in their life. They don't treat this the way that I treat it. Like, I love this. This is my life. This is my job. This is part of what I enjoy. And people want easy.
Good. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this time with us.
Thank you.
Wanted to just two last things, just 1 or 2 or 3 most actionable things, if you could just, like what you would want someone maybe not as in the weeds as you are, but that's really interested.
Write down 6 things that you feel like you would like to improve. If you're not training, if you're not drinking enough water, maybe you're not getting enough protein, you're not eating enough vegetables, like write down those 6 things and take 1 a month for 6 months. Like, take your time, like just practice for that month on getting good at it. Like, hydrating more in the beginning for someone who's not used to it, it's difficult for a lot of people. It's easy for us because we're used to it, but someone who's not used to it, it's difficult to make it habit or to understand, like, well, I drink a lot of water. Well, how do you know? Well, I drink these little Poland Spring bottles. I'm like, how many you have a day? 4. I'm like, it's not enough for your body weight. Like, it's good to understand half your body weight in ounces, right? And I think practicing these things for a month, I think are incredibly important. And understanding that when you fall off and make a mistake, that's part of the plan. Like, no human being has ever been perfect at this. Like, no one has, ever eaten perfectly or trained perfectly or gone in there and, with intensity every time. Like, we have bad workouts, we have bad days of eating, we get thrown off schedule. I think the idea is to just recognize and say, it wasn't a great day today. What do I have to do tomorrow to make it better? And if you could just start minimizing the mistakes, you make 2025 half the mistakes that you made in 2024, that's an improvement. Now, a lot of people out there that are purists are like, well, that's not good enough. I'm like, it's an improvement. If we can cut it in half, if you had chocolate cake 365 days and overate it, I'm not telling you to get rid of it. Like, but maybe, cut it in half, and then the following year, cut it in half. And maybe at some point, keep it at once or twice a week. And people would say, well, why would you do that? Well, if you want to make body composition change, you need to make an effort and you need to change certain things in your life. And a lot of the tabloids frustrated me at times because they were talking about empowerment and like, well, you should be able to have that and F this and go have that chocolate cake. And I'm like, no, like, this person's gained 10 pounds in the last month. Like, it's become a problem. Like, they should enjoy it. And I want them to enjoy it, but they need, there needs to be a little discipline with all this as well. So I just think baby steps, go as slow as you can with the process. Don't rush it. New Year's, when it comes around the corner, and it will every year, it's like, just like, how slow can you do things now? Give yourself breaks. Don't try and do it perfectly indefinitely. Like, just take a day off the first week. Give yourself some clear your headspace a little bit, and you'll be more consistent.
Fantastic. And what, for the listeners, is the best way to follow you and to learn more about?
DonSaladino.com is my website. And my Instagram is Don Saladino. You guys can go there. I think we gave everyone a free month of training with me. So there'll be a code for you that my team will reach out for, which is fantastic, with video and everything. So literally a free challenge month program. Come and enjoy it. Use it. Hopefully I can help out.
Well, I'll be doing the challenge month. So.
Thanks for having me.
This podcast is for informational purposes only. The podcast is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. You should not use the information on the podcast for diagnosing or treating a health problem or disease, or prescribing any medication or other treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider before taking any medication or nutritional, herbal, or homeopathic supplement, and with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this or any other podcast. Reliance on the podcast is solely at your own risk. Information provided on the podcast does not create a doctor-patient relationship between you and any of the health professionals affiliated with our podcast. Information and statements regarding dietary supplements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Opinions of guests are their own, and this podcast does not endorse or accept responsibility for statements made by guests. This podcast does not make any representations or warranties about guest qualifications or credibility. Individuals on this podcast may have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referred to therein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.